Let me just start off by saying that mustaches are cool and everything, mustaches, milk mustache, but seriously, keep the mustaches clean. Like, we don't need to see pieces of egg or little tiny crumbs of Pop-Tarts. What are you doing? Are you saving those for later as like a small little snack? Is that popcorn for later when you get hungry? I'm not sure what's going on here. Keep the mustaches clean, okay? Anyways, all jokes aside, let's get straight into today's video. I actually wanted to talk a little bit more about the whole McFarlane situation. I know we're probably already tired and fatigued about hearing from the entire ordeal. We know it. We've heard it. We live it. McFarlane is about to lose the DC license, and it's incredibly sad. I've said it before. I have a love-hate relationship with him. I don't think everything that he releases is absolute fire, but it's just sad to have to start all over again. It's a brand new era of collecting, and I think the community is going to feel it regardless. Whether that means you want to now start picking up as many DC Multiverse action figures from McFarlane, or whether you're going to decide to just sell your collection because Mattel is coming in and they're usually closer to the 112 scale. It's going to be very interesting to see that transition and see how a lot of different collectors handle this ordeal. But let's get straight into today's topic, which is essentially, I believe, and this is purely speculation, I don't hang out with McFarlane. We don't, drink beer on the weekends or play golf. This is just me spitballing because I'm reading the tea leaves, and I personally believe that McFarlane will actually start to reissue or re-release a lot of old figures that have gained a ton of value in the third party. And I think this is going to completely destroy the market. It's going to just bring the entire community crashing down on itself, because there are a lot of people out there that flip action figures. There are a lot of scalpers, and there are a lot of collectors that like to have value in their collections. They like the idea of knowing that they have like a brand new mint unopened figure that is worth $100 when they bought it at retail for like 20 something. I don't know what it is about people. They don't like to see manufacturers release something or re-release something, which I think is buffoonery. I mean, they're obviously in the game to make money, and they're not going to wait around for your figure to continue collecting value. That's not the way that things work. Especially now that this is McFarlane's last year, it makes total sense. Why would he need cash in on the DC license as much as he possibly can? Re-release everything that has good value on the third party, whether it's eBay or Amazon. Try to re-release as many of those, get more money into your pocket, and then get ready for the next project. Whatever the next big project is, as of the moment of this recording, we know that he has some classic Mortal Kombat figures coming in, and then he has picked up the TMNT line. So it only makes sense to kind of pocket that and then start progressing into what comes next from McFarlane. Let's not forget, he still has Spawn. He still has his comic book universe, as well as the collectibles from Spawn, and he also has the sports figures, the NFL like statues, and then Marvel statues and page punchers. I mean, there's still definitely some meat on the bone for McFarlane. I'm hoping that he's able to rebuild himself and then get his name out there again, because I do definitely feel like he is one of the big heavy hitters when he's making good collectibles anyways. Let's get straight into it. There are some figures that I think right off the bat will get re-released. Now, we already saw the Grim Knight get a re-release, which is really cool. It is in a 2-pack, unfortunately. Maybe there are some people out there that already have the original Killer Croc that don't want another one, but both of these figures are good re-releases. You get a more classic representation of Killer Croc, or at least how he represents himself in a lot of comic books. I think this one makes perfect sense. It veers closer to like a more vague representation of Killer Croc, whereas in the original one was, very specific to the video game. And then Grim Knight, obviously, you're going to get a second opportunity at that figure. Now, I'm not sure what it's going for recently. I don't really keep up to date too much with eBay prices. However, I do remember that figure reaching like astronomical heights, well over $100 in mint condition. Even used, I remember it going for like, $40 to $50. So it's definitely a good opportunity for McFarlane to reissue this figure, and then give an opportunity to new collectors or people that are barely starting to get into the DC Multiverse line, or people that want a second, because let's not forget, these figures, while they are very durable and they're manufactured very well, they don't last forever, and so it's a pretty good idea to have an extra Grim Knight if he is one of your favorites. But there are a number of other prime candidates for a re-release. You have, for example, the newest Wonder Woman Collector's Edition Wonder Woman, which I think was a rebirth, if I'm not mistaken. I might have seen this figure like one time in person, and it was at a comic book shop for like $70. but this one has reached some really crazy, ridiculous price points. You're talking about like well over $100 at this point, and it's a very popular character. A lot of people need her. What's crazy is this isn't even like an old figure. It's not one of those characters that got released within like the first couple of waves. Like this literally just got released maybe last year, and so it makes perfect sense for him to try to dip back into it. Just have a little bit of an opening for a lot of retailers to be able to order this. I think it'll sell out incredibly well. And also you don't need a re-release like a normal figure. Like you can just go back into production and make a few, thousand more for collectors that weren't able to pick up the first one. And let's not forget, it's a $30 price point, so it makes perfect sense for him to go back into production, get this figure into as many collectors' hands as he possibly can, because again, it is the last year of the DC Multiverse from McFarlane. The Thomas Wayne Batman is also a very interesting one. This was kind of out of left field. Not a lot of people are familiar with this particular storyline, but I believe it's the Flashpoint Paradox storyline where Flash goes back in time, tries to switch things up, and I believe like Thomas Wayne ends up being Batman for some unforeseen reason, if I remember correctly. But regardless, this was another one of those interesting releases and sold out incredibly well. I think for the most part, if you like went out looking for it, maybe you were able to find it, but it kind of came and went pretty quickly. And this is another one of those figures that has garnered quite a bit of attention. The Green Arrow television version also sold out pretty well. I'm not sure why. I mean, it's not really, it's completely dated. The articulation isn't great, but the sculpt and the design was really well done, and it had kind of a cult following. I'm going to assume that there weren't enough of these produced from McFarlane, and that's why it's selling for what it's selling at the third-party market. Now, don't ask me why these are selling for high prices, but there was those all gold label action or all gold action figures that were a part of the gold label, as well as those bronze action figures. Some of those have garnered quite a bit of a cult following and have gone, to astronomical heights. I'm not sure why. It's essentially like the exact same figure that you got before, with just like, bronze plastic. That's it, or gold plastic. There was nothing new about it. No new accessories, no new headpiece or head sculpt, nothing new. It was just the exact same figure in different colored plastic. But as I said, it garnered a little bit of a cult following. Maybe there weren't enough of these produced, but there seems to be a little bit of a following here, and those could be some of those figures that he decides to double dip, re-release these figures. I don't think people are going to really be upset if they're the exact same figure with the exact same articulation and, body molds and accessories. I think they just want to feel like they had a figure that was a part of like the first year of McFarlane having the DC Multiverse line. And let's definitely not forget the Rebirth Red Hood action figure, which I believe we got two different versions of: the unmasked head sculpt version and then the one with the actual mask. One was a single release and then the other one was a 2-pack. This was also an action figure that garnered quite a bit of attention because we haven't really gotten another comic book accurate Red Hood since then, at least not a classic one or a quote-unquote classic one. We have received one from some newer storylines from the video games and so on and so forth, but we haven't received this particular version, and I would love to see it re-released in some way. Maybe just issue the exact same figure, or I guess you could go back and give it like a wired cape. We're starting to see that way more from McFarlane, or I should say a wired jacket. We are starting to see that way more consistently from him, and that would be absolutely phenomenal for this particular figure. But the list goes on and on. We have the Batman Who Laughs, who we also got about 3 to 4 different versions. We had the regular version, we had the Mortal Kombat iteration, as well as the winged version, and then same thing with his Robins from the Earth 22 Robins. We also got a 4-pack that included the Robins and Batman Who Laughs, and then we received the single carded versions, which all came, there were like variations, they all came with different head sculpts. And then we have the Nightfall Catwoman. Like I said, I could go on and on. A lot of different action figures that were originally from like the first couple of years. They've definitely gone up in value by quite a bit. and I think that they continue to go up in price on the third-party market. So it's very interesting to see how things are going to play out for McFarlane within the next few months. I think most of us assume that he will re-release a lot of these figures, but we don't know that for a fact. I think only time will tell. But as I said at the beginning of the video, it only makes sense for him to go back and re-release all these figures, reissue them, and he doesn't have to make large quantities. He could just go back to the factory and remake a few of these and then spread them out across the US, just so that newer collectors are able to get their hands on these figures, and then people that maybe skipped out on them originally can get a second opportunity at them. It puts more money, like I said, into his pocket for the future projects that he has in place, and it also gives, like I said, the consumers another opportunity at this. And it always makes sense, especially if these figures are going for like astronomically high prices on the third party. It just makes sense for them to want a piece of that. These are the last few months, and he's going to try to squeeze every single drop out of the DC Multiverse line. But as always, this is just my personal opinion, my personal take. I'm very curious to see what all of you guys have to say. Do you guys feel like these figures will get reissued in some way, shape, or form, or do you believe that this is the end of it? Will we never get these figures reissued from McFarlane? Very curious to see what you guys have to say. Most importantly, would you guys like to see them reissued, or would you like to see them focus more on new characters, new action figures? Let me know down below in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, if you guys enjoy this type of content, make sure to stay tuned. We do this pretty consistently. I do want to say that I definitely appreciate you guys for tuning in. It definitely motivates us even more to continue churning out content for everybody. So stay tuned, stay safe out there. Make sure to enjoy the hobby. Enjoy your action figures. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.